President Tinubu to consult further on acceptable minimum wage.
It's the responsibility of all of us as media practitioners to know the kind of news coverage that we give them.
Federal government engages media practitioners as it seeks responsible journalism to counter terrorism.
You can see houses, civilian houses, sharing fences with the correctional center here in Kefio. So it means that it's not sustainable.
Minister of Interior hints at relocating correctional centers from urban centers. Good evening and thanks for joining us on the Network News at 9 on NTA. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Tonight, I will be flying with our busy businessman, Benny Adams, who will bring us some business reports as we progress. Do not forget to follow us live on our website, nc.ng/live, NTA News Now on X, as well as other social platforms displayed on the screen. And here's the news. President Bola Tinubu is now to consult further with the subnationals and other relevant stakeholders in order to come up with an acceptable and sustainable new minimum wage. This part of the decisions at the Federal Executive Council meeting this Tuesday at the State House. State House correspondent Musbah Danwahab will bring us details as we progress. Now, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, dismisses reports that the 10th Senate is proposing that the federal government should procure new aircraft for President Bola Tinubu and his vice, Senator Kashim Shettima. Speaking to newsmen in Maiduguri after a condolence visit to Senator Tahir Monguno over the death of his father, Akpabio notes that the report is not true. Reports made rounds in the media last week alleging that Senator Akpabio made comments that the Senate would approve the purchase of new aircraft for the President and Vice President. The President of the Senate said the report was from propagandists and fifth columnists, stressing that the Senate is focused on delivering legislations that will support the actualization of President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. Senator Akpabio also expresses satisfaction with the present security situation in Borno State and urges Nigerians to continue to pray for the present administration. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has made a case for steady power supply to Shader Science and Technology Complex in Kwale Federal Capital Territory to support technological innovation of the country. This was during an oversight by House Committee on Science Engineering to the complex. National Assembly correspondent Mohammed Rabiu Ali reports.
This is one among many hubs of science and engineering in Nigeria that are set to bring innovation and compete favorably with other developed nations. Lack of steady electricity supply and inadequate funding, among other impediments, affect productivity and the morale of staff. The visit by the House Committee on Science Engineering provides an opportunity to have first-hand information on challenges and what the management presented during the 2023 budget defense.
From 1989, 93, when everything was set to now taking off, there was only one structure in Shesco. Up to 2009, all the centers in Shesco we are using one block, and some of the laboratories we are using only one room. And at the end of the day, you find that nothing was happening.
We'll come back to the drawing board, make our research institutes very, very effective, very, very competitive, well accommodated in our budget.
The committee assured to provide the necessary support not only to Shader Science Engineering but to the sector in general. In Abuja, Mohammed Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
Deputy Comptroller of Customs in charge of Revenue, ATOP Andrew Essien, has passed on. He died today, Tuesday, at the National Assembly where he suddenly developed health complications while appearing before the House Committee on Public Accounts. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikme once again brings us details.
Got the responsibility of the Nigerian Customs Service to remit.
This video captures the last moments of ATOP Andrew Essien, the late Deputy Comptroller of Customs, in Committee Room 446 at the National Assembly.
I would want to take us to Appendix A, pages 5 to 14.
He is seen initially in high spirits, speaking and making a presentation before the House Committee on Public Accounts. No one had a clue of what was to follow.
So I may need to take water.
You need to take water, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Or if you need tea, do you need tea?
I may need to take water.
Confirming his death eventually in a statement, House spokesman Akin Rotimi said diligent efforts of first responders and medical personnel at the National Assembly Clinic could not resuscitate the customs officer, who unfortunately passed away. The House spokesman conveyed the Green Chamber's sympathy with the family, friends, and colleagues of the deceased, while lawmakers who spoke off camera said they were traumatized by the incident.
Thank you, my able chairman.
At another investigative hearing, the House Committee on Public Assets urged the National Orientation Agencies as well as other government ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure proper documentation of their properties and assets.
This committee is not happy with the situation of things with government assets throughout the country, particularly the management of government assets by agencies.
99% of the 774 local government were squatting in the local government secretariats.
The committee also canvassed improved funding of the National Orientation Agency to enable it fulfill its mandate. From the National Assembly, Mitari Ikben, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Niger Customs Service expresses deep sense of loss over the death of the Deputy Comptroller of Customs, ATOP Andrew Essien. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, in a statement by Customs Public Relations Officer Abdullahi Mitwada, extends his heartfelt condolences to the family of the officer with a commitment to offer assistance. To security matters, President Bola Tinubu administration's commitment to free and responsible journalism through access to accurate information, regular media briefings and training opportunities were reiterated by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. This was at a training workshop for the media organized by the National Counter-Terrorism Center, Office of the National Security Advisor. Salihu Gwanara reports.
Although members of the pen profession do not have the power to shoot a gun in the fight against terrorism, they control the pen whose power is mightier than that of the sword. This is to update members of the media, particularly defense correspondents, of the dynamics and strategic roles they are expected to perform in sustaining the battle against terrorism. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris joined in the advocacy and encouraged the media to use data and research to authenticate their reports and avoid sensationalism.
Without propaganda, terrorism will not thrive. And at all times, a terrorist will always want to be in the news. So it is the responsibility of all of us as media practitioners to know the kind of news coverage that you give them. I have said it times without number that it is often not helpful when on the front pages of our newspapers you find pictures of terrorists with AK-47 across their shoulder and portraying them as if they are actually heroes. They are not. These are enemies of our land and we should treat them as such. So this kind of engagements, Jaralaka and other distinguished guests here, please deepen it in the interest of the fight against terrorism.
Journalists not only set agenda, but mold opinions because the media also function as a conviction instrument which can be used to thwart counterproductive activities.
We are hopeful that the workshop will allow for honest dialogue that will generate useful ideas to improved strategies of reporting to enhance peace and security in Nigeria.
With the theme, Effective Reporting Towards Strengthening Alternatives to Terrorist Ideologies, Contemporary Security Challenges, the defense correspondents are expected to cross-fertilize ideas with relevant stakeholders as part of efforts in fighting terrorism using the non-kinetic approach. In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu congratulates the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on his birthday. A statement by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, indicates that Governor Sanwo-Olu had a successful career in the private sector before joining the public service, scaling the leadership ladder. The president prays for more years in good health for the governor and wishes him more wisdom and energy in his service to Lagos State and the nation. Now, in a landmark move, leaders from the Northwest region, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, have pledged to address the root causes of insecurity and promote economic growth. As the Northwest Peace and Security Summit concludes in Katsina, the two-day summit ends after intense discussions on adoptable recommendations. Awal Haliru reports.
The two-day summit brought together governors from the 7 states in the Northwest region, security experts and development partners to discuss the lingering insecurity challenges and developmental issues facing the region. At the end of the summit, the leaders emphasized investment in education, healthcare and economic empowerment programs for youth, as well as promoted agricultural development and infrastructure growth. The UNDP resident representative commended the leaders for their commitment to addressing the root causes of insecurity.
In terms of a collective understanding of the issues that we are dealing with, I think the last 2 days we have been able to unpack the issues. Those that are security oriented, those are the developmental oriented, but they all come together. The outcome of this is to build on what happens after here. There will be an outcome document that the 7 governors will be leading with the support of the United Nations Development Programme, the United Nations family.
We want to also make sure that the principle of leaving no one behind prevail on our work with the government of Nigeria, and looking at also the people in the northwestern part of the country is important because it helps us to address across the 17 SDG some of the critical issues that we discussed during this 2 days.
The summit featured panel discussions and presentations on security sector reform, economic development and agriculture. The outcome of the summit is seen as a major step forward in the region's quest for peace and security. In Katsina, Awal Halaru, NTA News.
Still on security, Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo wants correctional centers in built-up urban areas to be relocated. This, he says, is to ensure better security management of the facilities. The minister was speaking during an inspection tour of the Medium Custodial Center in Kefi, Nasarawa State. Victor Azu brings us details.
The tour of correctional facilities across the country continues for the Minister of Interior. This time, his first port of call is Karshi, location of the ongoing Mega Custodial Center in Abuja. His body language suggests something isn't quite right, but he wouldn't say.
We have 1 or 2 observations, which of course I would not like to share in front of the camera. But of course, when we get back to the office, we will sit down as the ministry and the NCOS, we'll sit down together, brainstorm on solutions to some of the issues.
The minister's worries may not be unconnected with how to provide security for the 30th hectare space when work is done. In Kefi, Tunji-Ojo was confronted by a familiar sight, residential buildings in close quarters with custodial centers.
This correctional center is arguably over 200 years, old. You can see houses, civilian houses, sharing fences with the correctional center here in Kefi. So it means that it's not sustainable. We have to think about relocation. We have to look at because of the effect of urbanization.
The minister is hopeful that when the facility audit is over, Nigeria will no longer need to maintain the more than 250 custodial facilities scattered across the country. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
You're watching the Network News on NTA. Time to take a break. More reports when we return. You're still watching the Network News on NTA. The Kano State Police Command has welcomed the new Commissioner of Police, Salman Dogo, who assumed the helm of affairs from his predecessor, Mohammed Hussein Gumel, recently promoted to the rank of Assistant Inspector General of Police. Elizabeth Yila Lamido reports that the ceremony was attended by high-ranking officials and officers.
In a ceremonious display of honor, the Kano State Police Command welcomed its new Commissioner of Police, Salman Dogo, with a Grand Century Guard parade. The event marked the formal introduction of CP Salman to the divisional heads at the command. CP Salman Dogo, a native of Kwara State, has assumed the role of the 46th Commissioner of Police for Kano State, following his tenure as the CP Force Armament at the Force Headquarters in Abuja. His transition into this new role was officiated by the former CP, now Assistant Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Hussein Gumel, who signed the handing over documents and transferred command affairs to his successor. As AIG Gumel bid farewell to the officers and men of the Kano Command, he took the opportunity to recognize and award exceptional service to 58 outstanding officers and 23 stakeholders for their significant contributions to maintaining peace and security in the state. In turn, the command presented a farewell package to the AIG.
As I move on to my new assignment, I carry with me the experiences, lessons, and memories from my time here.
AIG Muhammad Hussein Gumel is set to report to his new duty post in Kano. Elizabeth Hila, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Police Service Commission says it has just concluded a routine maintenance of its portal containing the list of successful candidates for the recently concluded recruitment into the constable cadre of the Nigeria Police Force. The Commission, in a statement, denies media report alleging that it has succumbed to pressure and cancelled the final list of successful candidates, enjoining successful candidates to ignore the fake news, as the Commission did not and will not cancel the final list of successful candidates from the recruitment exercise. In another news, the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors is taking advantage of the new frontiers presented by artificial intelligence to enhance the skills and capacity of Nigerian surveyors, especially in advancement of geospatial information technology. Members of the profession are in Benin City, Edo State capital, for their 58th annual general meeting and conference, which has the theme Geospatial Information Technology in the Era of Artificial Intelligence as its focus. Jude Abogu has details.
Rapid transformation of industries by artificial intelligence is also impacting on survey profession, and this annual general meeting and conference is exploring the opportunities this presents for geospatial information technology, as well as the challenges AI poses to the survey profession.
We are witnessing another revolution driven by artificial intelligence, with its capacity to learn from data, identify pattern, and make predictions.
The keynote address from Vice Chancellor, University of Benin, read by the DVC Ekawan campus, highlights the applications and the intersection of geospatial information technology and artificial intelligence.
the use of geospatial technologies has proven to be very effective for achieving set targets with respect to projects and programs implementation.
The Edo State Governor, represented by his deputy and other dignitaries, believe that the future generation stands to benefit more from the transformative impact of AI on geospatial information technology.
The survey people, they have assisted us in no small measure, both in our housing, our buildings, built environment, and the master plan.
The over 4,000 surveyors representing the academia, public and private sectors will, in the course of the AGM, participate in plenary, technical and business sessions. In Benin, Jude Abugu, NTA News.
Let's shift attention to development partnership. The drive towards meeting the development agenda for Gombe State took Governor Muhammadu Inuwa to Morocco. In this report, Emmanuel Akila takes a look at the partnership established and other prospects of the trip.
Typical of a business trip, Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya's delegation to the Kingdom of Morocco comprised of the traditional institution, the business class, and policymakers of the state government. The contingent's first port of call is the Nigerian embassy in the Kingdom of Morocco. Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya is passionate about agricultural development. Therefore, the Gombe State delegation visit OCP Africa to discuss business. Visit to other places saw the signing of agreements for partnerships in education and commerce, among others.
We have a lot to share with you. We have a lot to learn from you, and equally, in a symbiotic way, you too have some things to learn from us. We are going to deepen and widen the relationship so that our people will mutually benefit one another.
We try to do our best to bring what we've learned in other countries and in other states in Nigeria, but also we are waiting you to support us, to learn from you. That's because you are the farmer and
His Majesty the King has put his personal imprint from the beginning. So we're here to serve you and to serve with all our brothers and sisters of Africa.
Finding the square root for the development of Gombe State, expert says, is not only about formulation and implementation of policies internally, but that it also includes finding the right business partners wherever they are for mutually beneficial relationships.
We are going to benefit from various aspects. One, we are going to benefit from the expertise of Morocco. You know, Morocco is known for fertilizer production. Gombe is agrarian. So that means if we can have the transfer of technology, the transfer of knowledge, and the transfer of resources from Morocco to Gombe, definitely it will boost fertilizer production.
With the industrialization platforms in Gombe State now ready and beckoning at investors from within Nigeria and across the globe, what is left to be seen is the inflow of investments from the Morocco trip to fast-track growth and development of the state and country. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
Let's now take you back to our report on President Tinubu's readiness to consult with the subnationals and other relevant agencies to come up with an acceptable new minimum wage. Correspondent Musbaut Danwahab now brings us details.
Members of the Federal Executive Council too embraced the renewed national anthem for the first time and for the only meeting yet in June. After more than a month, memos have piled up. 39 items found their way on the agenda and dealt with. One of them is a prospective new minimum wage issue. After a marathon of meetings, the representatives of the government and private sector in the tripartite committee on new minimum wage on June 7 suggested 62,000 naira as a new benchmark, which the organized labor rejected. The memo got here before the council, but then the much anticipated final decision will not be taken here.
Mr. President is going to consult further so that he can have an informed position, because the new national minimum wage, like I said, is not just an issue of the federal government. It affects the state governments, it affects the local governments, it also affects the organized private sector. And that is why it is called national minimum wage. It's not just an affair of the federal government.
The prevailing health issues also got attention of a council, with a cabinet committee to be set up to coordinate emergency operations to check the outbreak of cholera, which the Minister of Health confirmed has now been recorded in 31 states, with 53 deaths from about 1,500 cases.
And resources were deployed to 21 states to help them respond to the cholera, in addition to improving awareness of our population, hand washing, hygiene, sanitation, in addition to treatment.
Apart from deploying vaccines to check the outbreak of yellow fever in part of Bayelsa State, the council has also set up a task force to urgently address the acute malnutrition cases recorded across Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, Sokoto, Katsina, and Zamfara states.
We had formed a ministerial task force that is mobilizing resources from the World Bank and also grant financing to provide ready-to-use therapeutic foods for the treatment of those severely malnourished children, while the country is making progress to expand food production.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy reported on some positive indices on the economy, including the debt stock falling by 15%. But most importantly, it says the President is concerned with how to ensure food security.
Setting up of the economy to put down the infrastructure that will lead to growth. You put infrastructure, you get growth. That is going apace. But the uppermost and the most important thing on Mr. President's agenda now is the issue of food security, nutrition, affordability of food for Nigerians. And he's working day and night to come up with not just the longer term, but even the interim measures to help in that direction.
The Council is now preparing toward the implementation of the 2022 National Policy on Plastic Waste Management by approving the immediate ban on single-use plastics across 8 ministries, departments and agencies.
So what the federal government is doing is preparing the minds of Nigeria and leading by example. When you see this thing being done in the federal ministries and agencies, you will see that it will convince you that it is possible.
The government has also decided to boost the counter-narcotic operations of the NDLEA with procurement of 33 CNG-compliant vehicles, arms, ammunition, and anti-riot equipment, among others.
The third in the series is the procurement of 2 units of body scanner, full body scanners at both Abuja and Lagos international airports to boost the operation of NDLA.
We had 3
Works Minister Dave Umahi, who got augmentation approval for 3 major roads in Enugu, Lagos and Cross River States, said that all roads projects across the country are being monitored for timely delivery. From the State House, Muspal and Wahab, NTA News.
A bit on education. The management of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELP Fund, says it has postponed application process for 14 days. A statement by the head media and public relations of the fund, Nasser Ayitogo, says that decision was necessitated by the failure of several state-owned institutions to upload the required students' data and fees information to the NELP Fund Students Verification System. The statement adds that 20 state universities out of 48, 12 state colleges out of 54, and 2 state polytechnics out of 49 are affected. It notes that the application window initially set to open on the 25th of June will now commence on the 10th of July 2024. This extension will provide additional time for state institutions to comply with data submission requirements and ensure that their students benefit from the federal government student loan scheme. Now, amidst emotions and nostalgic reflections, students and parents of St. Gregory College, Ikoyi, Lagos, gathered in earnest to commemorate the 2023-2024 valedictory service of the college. This annual ceremony, steeped in tradition and significance, marked a pivotal moment as graduating seniors bid farewell to their alma mater.
Parents and faculty looked on with admiration, recognizing the end of a significant chapter in the lives of their children. A holy mass officiated by Reverend Father Emmanuel Ayeni heralded the events of the day. He urged the students to uphold the values taught in the school as they prepare for higher responsibilities.
As you look back on your time at St. Gregory's College, remember the friendships you have made, the lessons you have learned, and the values you have embraced.
Time for Thanksgiving. The students filed out in their numbers, dancing in appreciation to God for His mercies. The mass came to a close with a photograph session with members of staff and old students. Then, the award ceremony with speeches, accolades and performances to celebrate academic and personal achievements of departing students.
I'm really happy to be standing before you as a proud alumni of our great school, St. Gregory's College. Just as the speaker said, I graduated from these same grounds in the year 1979.
With eyes turned towards the future, the graduating class of 2023-2024 stands poised to embark on their next adventures, armed with the knowledge and values instilled during their time at one of Lagos' most prestigious institutions.
Global Alliance will be making a case for the inclusion of responsible communication in line with Goal 18 of the Sustainable Development Goals, given its importance. President of the Alliance, Professor Justin Green, disclosed this at the leadership of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations at a luncheon in its honor. Haman Jabani reports.
The luncheon put together by the President, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Ike Nialeaku, in honor of the President of the Global Alliance, Professor Justin Green, provided public relations experts an opportunity to interact in a more relaxed atmosphere. Aside that, some important issues discussed were the strengthening of the relationship between the Global Alliance and the NIPR, as both parties agreed to collaborate and support each other in any way possible.
The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations desires to work very closely with Global Alliance. That's why we came to you and requested that you support us to establish the Public Relations and Leadership Academy.
Professor Green said, knowing the essence of adopting responsible communication the world over is crucial, as is all that people do, act or say. He informed his host of making a request at the UN General Assembly to add responsible communication as the 18th goal of the Sustainable Development.
Everyone has a responsibility to ensure responsible communication is not just run by an institute. What I've seen here today, Nigeria and NIPR are certainly setting the main steps forward during that.
Since you came, you have seen Nigeria. The impression we're talking about is beginning to change from whatever you want to have about Nigeria. This is Nigeria, not what people write out about. So you're going to see it yourself firsthand.
I want to extend my advocacy that it's something that you also look at on a broader scale. How to help you out, not just particularly build capacity, to address those issues.
Professor Justin Green is in Nigeria for the Diamond Ceremony celebration of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Haman Jabani, NTA News.
Time to pay more bills. More reports ahead. Nice to know you're still there. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria says it welcomes observations and criticisms on how to improve the annual Hajj operations. The NACAN chairman, Jalal Ahmed Arabi, stated this while interacting with members of the 2024 Hajj National Media Team in Makkah. Correspondent Jamilu Ibrahim reports.
These are members of the 2024 Hajj media team inaugurated by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria more than 1 month ago. As the 2024 Hajj season is over, members of the team are at the Nahakon office in Makkah for an interactive session with the Commission chairman and his management team on how the Hajj operations fared. The Nahakon chairman, who acknowledged the vital role played by the media team toward the success of this year's Hajj operations, says the Commission still welcomes observations and constructive criticisms that could help in improving the exercise going forward.
Thank you for your reportage. You did so well. Those areas that you've highlighted, we'll take them on board. Those that you haven't highlighted, please by all means highlight them.
The forum provides an opportunity to review the success story and the challenges of the 2024 Hajj operations and the way forward.
There should be fairness in admitting that we did the best that we could in the circumstance, and in the process we had recorded some successes, and going forward we believe we can still do better.
Meanwhile, the Nahakon has specifically recognized the Nigerian Television Authority as the most outstanding broadcast media in the 2024 Hajj coverage. The NTA was recognized along with the Blueprint newspapers and an online news platform, Hajj Panorama, among more than 40 media outfits that constitute this year's Nahakon media team. From the holy city of Mecca and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Thank you, Jamilu, for that information. Time to talk business, and our busy businessman is set. Benny?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome to business. In contributing to growing the capital market, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers say the wholesome adoption of technology in all stages of capital raising process, making investing more accessible and appealing to a broader range of investors, are key factors towards the attainment of a $1 trillion economy. This was at an inauguration of new executives in Abuja, where the capital market stakeholders also noted that the ongoing banking sector recapitalization program will position the banks in Nigeria to support the growth of the economy, position them for global competitiveness, promote financial inclusion, and generate trillions of naira. They say out of 200 million people in the country, just about 7 million have investment in the capital market.
From the capital market, and these are the kind of people that we expect we do it.
It is our job to ensure that we make people know the reason why these banks are increasing their capital and why they need to even subscribe to it.
And still talking about the markets, investors lost 48.86 billion naira as the oil share index declined by 0.09% to close at 99,217.60 basis points. A total of 361.5 million shares in 8,511 deals, corresponding to a market value of 6.163 billion naira, were traded. Today's data shows 63% decline in volume, 68% decline in turnover, and 14% decline in deals. The current market capitalization is 56.1 trillion naira. On the aggregate, 125 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 27 gainers and 23 losers. Transcorp Nigeria recorded the highest volume of traded shares, followed by Guarantee Trust Holding and Veritas Capital Assurance. That is business news. Network News continues.
Thank you, Benny. Now to oil and gas. Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has pointed out that it will continue to interface with critical industry players to mitigate supply chain challenges. Lydia Sampson reports.
As the complexity of product supply chains keep evolving, this meeting, at the instance of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, is to facilitate the alignment of policies and regulations, creating a favorable environment for local refining and marketing of petroleum products. With allegations from both refiners and marketers in the media, this meeting commits to deepening collaboration.
I can assure you that all the major marketers have been patronizing the local refineries, and we'll continue to patronize them. And we also have the option of getting products from other sources. To the best of our knowledge, that has not changed.
We've had a very fruitful discussion industry discussion with the NMDPRA, and leaving this meeting, I feel very confident that we're all going to work together.
We believe that this meeting is just one of many to come that will move this industry in the right direction.
At the end of the interface, NMDPRA reacted to the allegations of dirty crude oil allegedly allowed in-country by their organization. He says it is a deregulated market and marketers are free to source for products from any preferred refiners in line with the Petroleum Industry Act. In Abuja, Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Let's take our last break. Now to the foreign scene, Kenyan president vows to provide effective response to address proposed tax hikes. Details with Francis Udojo.
I assure Kenyans that we shall provide a full, effective, and expeditious response to today's treasonous events.
The situation left 5 people dead and dozens wounded. The mainly youth-led rallies have galvanized outrage over proposed tax hikes and simmering anger over a cost of living crisis to fuel rapidly growing demonstrations that have caught the government off guard. In another development, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has regained freedom after a judge signs off on a plea deal with U.S. authorities to bring to a close his 5-year-long legal detention. According to a court document, Assange's release came after he flew out of London to the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. territory in the Pacific, where he pleaded guilty to a single count of conspiracy to obtain and disseminate national defense information. Meanwhile, Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako of Japan were warmly received at Buckingham Palace by King Charles III, Queen Camilla, and the Prince of Wales. The ceremonial welcome marked the start of a 3-day state visit to the UK. The visit by the Emperor and Empress is intended to reinforce military, scientific, and cultural links between the UK and Japan. Francis Udojo, NT News.
Next is sports update. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu commiserates with the wife of the Vice President Hajj Nana Shatima on the demise of her mother, Hajj Miriam al-Bashir. In a statement, the First Lady says her passing is a painful one and a great personal loss to the wife of the Vice President and her entire family. While praying that Almighty Allah forgives all the shortcomings of the deceased and grant her Al-Jannah Firdaus, the First Lady also prays that God comfort the bereaved during this difficult time, urging them to find solace in the remembrance of the good deeds and virtues that the deceased stood for. Similarly, the First Lady extends her condolences to Professor Hafsat Ganduje, wife of the APC National Chairman, on the passing of her mother, Hajja Asiya Gauyama, describing the loss of her mother as a painful one. She prays for God's comfort and fortitude for the family to bear the loss. Meanwhile, the Olatunbosun family announces the death of Felicia Folashade Olatunbosun, a deputy director with the Voice of Nigeria headquarters, Abuja, after a brief illness on June 19, 2024. Olatunbosun, who served as the chairperson of the 2023 FRCN, NTA and VON Service of 9 Lessons and Christmas Carol Committee, will be interred on Friday, June 28, 2024, after burial rites, which will end with a funeral service at the House on the Rock Church, City Gate, Abuja. She survived by her family. And that's the news. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Elizabeth Omori.